is we just Sunday. We just I just got a letter from Steve Martinez, who is the superintendent of the KUSD, Kernville Union School District. We're going to be.
You're going to use that?
We're partnering with Lake Links. They're partnering with Lake Links to provide students internet access. And yesterday we spent about an hour with Kim Kissick out of South Fork. We're going to do this. We're going to do the same for them. Yeah. Yep.
You don't seem to be.
No, they get. I told Steve and Tisha and I told Kim.
Okay, I just wanted you to know that they were.
Oh, yeah.
Protect. I said, it's not about the money. We just need to make sure that we cover our costs. I said the payoff will come when all the dust is settled and all this is over. We're going to have a bunch of households with our service coming into it. Once the school says, okay, we're not paying for it anymore, they're going to want to keep it. And it'll be an easy transition for us to turn them into.
We'll be able to use the telephones on the internet.
Yeah, the voice, yeah.
Yeah, right. So that'll be good.
Hey, Ross.
Hi, Tim.
And they tried to do it with hotspots, Verizon hotspots. It's just not a workable thing. Hey, John. I actually noticed you sitting down on the TV. I went, oh, John.
Russ, can you hear? Yeah. Can you hear us, Russ?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what you have done that makes you look better on here? Is that why you're not showing up in here? Because you look better on the computer?
I've got the slimming lens in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you can't stretch or elongate the screen, so try that on me sometime.
What happened to your fancy background?
Oh, I thought it was kind of hokey, so I took that down.
That works the opposite on mine.
Is that a ukulele hanging in the background? No, that's a guitar. Huh?
No, it's a guitar. Classic.
All right.
Hi, John.
Barbara and
Bob. I thought I saw that SSR double cars behind me.
yep, that was me,
When was last year they made those? 6?
2006.
Yeah.
That's a 2006.
Yeah. What do they have for a power plant now?
Well, it evolved over, but I've got the best one, which was a 6-liter vet motor.
Oh, really? Yeah. Have you seen those C8s?
No,
Motor Trend Car of the Year.
I don't know which.
They said first time out trying a mid-engine design on a Corvette, and it said they nailed it.
The latest vet I rode in was, our architect had one, but he's since sold it. But it was one of the last years of the front engine. And he picked me up in Sacramento and we went to Oshkosh. It was very, very comfortable car to ride in.
Yeah, you're in a little, you're in a cockpit.
Yeah, you sit in that and the seat just envelops you, and you go around the corners and it just holds you.
But I was reading and watching video on those C8s, and I mean, this is the 8th, generation of Corvettes, and it's just absolutely that mid-engine.
Yes. The only car I had that was mid-engine, I took a 914 Porsche and I put a 327 V8 in a mid-engine. Yeah, well, that was an awesome car.
Not much backseat with that. So
None. It had 2 tiny seats.
unless you wanted to,
How old is that leach field?
The one well, there's 2 leach fields currently. There is one that was done in 1966. And then the later one was done in about 1990, 89, 90.
We had to replace ours. We've had to replace ours, and I'm looking at replacing the septic tank now.
Oh, it's tank bad also?
And I can't hear you from there.
The tank is bad also?
I think so,
Yeah.
because it was in 1978, we moved it from the backyard to the front yard so we could remodel.
Right.
And then we have a smaller leach field. We've replaced that for us, or done something.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, folks, can I go ahead and call this meeting to order?
Yes, you may.
Okay. We need to approve the agenda, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda unless there are any changes.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Thank you, Charlie.
I'll second.
Gene seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Agenda is approved. This portion of the meeting is set aside for public comments for items under the jurisdiction of this board, but not on this agenda. Do we have any public comments today? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move to approval of minutes of the June 23rd meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Ross, so moved.
Thank you, John.
I'll second.
Thanks, Charlie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Tim, strategic planning update.
On page 4, the welcome everybody. The Rob asked, because we were I talked about this earlier this morning at governance committee, but for those of you who weren't there, we have we're bumping up against our originally scheduled planning retreat date, which was supposed to be that first week in August. And again, obviously, there's trouble with getting the teams together, trying to identify specifically what each team's charter is going to be and what we need them to do, and then to go out and actually get the research done so that we can, assure that we've got good community feedback into the process to make sure that, again, we've got the best ideas coming forward to when we actually sit down to put the strategic plan together and then ultimately decide those action plans moving forward. So we want to make sure that we do that with as much input and feedback as possible, and that we got that. So we pushed the date back to first week in September. And I think we're looking at right now, I think the dates that are targeted are September 3rd and 4th. And so what Rob then did was to go out and kind of set some key target dates for the activities between now and then, which is what you're seeing on page 4 and 5 here. And so again, so we can kind of keep track. And we're kind of right now in that second bullet point under number 1, which is really the week of July 27th through August 14th, which is begin performing the research. And that is, again, the critical part. This is where we're really going out and kind of exploring, based upon which team member you're on or which team you're on, be it the communications team or being the services team or the kind of the financial flow. And so the issue there is obviously trying to get the community feedback in there. We created a survey question that was originally created for the part of the communications team that was sent out. Ross did a very nice letter that we put out to the community, was put on Facebook and so forth. We put a link on there to the initial survey because we were trying to begin understanding how people get information in town. How many people are getting it from the radio stations? What do they listen to? When do they listen to it? The newspapers, and so forth, Facebook, other social media sites and those kinds of things. And then as the other groups started kind of coming together with some of their ideas and so forth, we put some additional questions on there. And so the survey tool has evolved over the last week or so. So I think we're kind of at a point right now where we're out trying to figure out how do we get that out there. There were 2 surveys that were originally done. One was, like say, for the external communication. The other was done for the internal communication with our employees. And I believe we've got over 90 surveys back from our staff. We've gotten 37 from the community. And I think, Rob's message to us, or to me last night, was just to talk to the board members and the team and figure out how can we brainstorm how to get these surveys out into people's hands and then to get them to respond to it. I think that's the big challenge we've got. And so that's really kind of what I, under this bullet, really wanted to kind of emphasize. And I talked with Deb briefly to kind of, maybe she can give us a quick update as to what she's done and where she's placed this and so forth, so we can kind of work off of that strategy. And so Deb, can you kind of update us on what you've done so far with the survey?
So we've sent it to we did all the normal things that we've done. I think what we're going to have to do is probably just keep sending it out every day like we were doing for the testing. This morning I went through my phone, so if you guys go through your phone and you can private message someone, I just counted, I sent it out to 100 people this morning, so we'll see if any of them respond. But you can send like a little personal message and send out the survey, and they can do it right from their phone. If you have email addresses, or send it out to your email list. I think we're probably going to need to do more we need to do more personal touch than just sending it out there randomly. That's what I think.
So each of us have separate contacts that we deal with. Obviously, you guys do as board members. Gene, obviously, through your company. I mean, I don't know if you want to send it out to your people that, are customers of yours or want to. Charlie, you obviously got resources as well, people you've dealt with. Again, I think anything that we can do to get this out into the public's hands, the better result we're going to get. So,
I sent it to that KVHD community forum, so we'll see if any of them less responded.
So I just pulled up our webpage, our homepage for Kern Valley Healthcare District, and it's not on the front page.
And I requested Carrie to do that, so I need to follow up with him. I checked
Okay.
yesterday and it wasn't on there.
If we had a little banner right underneath the thing that directs people to the yellow tent, maybe it'd be a good place, be really highly visible.
yeah, and the other one too, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Deb about that, was in our meeting this morning, Ross had suggested, we were putting out the slides that we did, that our planner did, our architect, excuse me, my mind is shot here. There's too much stuff going on. Mike Ryan, our architect, put together that 9-phase strategy for the seismic upgrade. And Ross had requested that we take a look at putting that on the website. But apparently when we put it on there, it's buried under as a tab off a meeting and so forth. So we want to see if we can take that presentation and make that a bullet off of the main page as well. Just so people can look at that and see what we're talking about and discussing.
Are you talking about posting it as part of the page, or just creating a link that people want to?
They can click on a link to get to that presentation.
Yeah. And just make sure when it's set up that it opens up a separate page and doesn't close out to KVHD.
Correct.
Since it's very confusing, I don't know how it got to be confusing, but it is. When you go on the website trying to find it's hid behind here, it's there. Could we have a separate website for information for the community, like these meetings here? I'm sure a lot of people would go to it if they didn't have to pick a rock up and look underneath it to find it. Why can't we have it on its own, rather than uncovering it once in a while where you can see it, and the rest of the time it's hid, you can't see it. Now you can, now you can't. It's just sort of like a shell game. I'm not being negative, I'm stating a fact.
I agree. It's hard. I mean, you have to search to find it.
Yeah, and it seems like a shell game. Sometimes they want it searchable, sometimes somehow or other it's not searchable.
Yeah.
And we need a real information site people can use and get involved with us.
I think what Gene's pointing out again is that I don't know, gear it toward the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, that's
Okay?
me.
You
That's
know,
me.
and that's Yeah, he's our resident example.
It needs to be easier to find.
No, Gene, Eugene, your points are well taken. And obviously, that's one of the reasons why we devoted a whole team towards communication and so forth. So, I mean, there is definitely that aspect that we've got to figure out how do we communicate better with the community and sharing information with them. And, you know, technically that is done through the websites, but, you know, again, I agree that it is difficult sometimes because of how information gets posted in there, that it is difficult to find sometimes. So we've got to come up with a better way, better strategy.
When you say searchable, are you talking about the agendas? Be able to search for something?
Like, you know, like including, which everybody's been complaining about, and everybody says, well, I don't know what you're talking about. The view, when you go to view the meeting, it should be on there for at least the last 12 months. One or two's here and there, and then they'll say, oh, we posted on YouTube. How the heck do you put it on YouTube? You know what I'm talking about?
I think the only meetings that we're recording are board meetings and not the
Yeah,
committee.
Yeah.
We should be recording this one also. All the board members are here, and the public they can't be here, and it should be able to look at it later when you're off work or whatever. Or maybe we should have them only in the evenings to where they can participate.
Well, I think that a lot of the people that seem to have the most to say with the least amount of information would be able to be here. Just a matter of will they say, you know, in personal close proximity what they say on social media.
But we record it. Why wouldn't we make it available? Is there a problem with that?
Are you asking me or Tim?
No, I'm asking Bob or Tim. Tim.
You know, again, these meetings aren't recorded per se, to my knowledge. I mean, they're just meetings that we hold on Zoom. The only one that's recorded, to my knowledge, is the board meeting itself. It's not to say they can't be. I'm not saying they can't be. That's, you know, really, that's up to you guys.
This can be recorded, right? Now, in fact, we have done
Actually,
recorded.
it is being recorded.
It is being recorded.
But you,
Heidi, is this being recorded?
Why not make it available? You're saying you want to communicate.
so I think, well, let me interject. I think it'd probably be a better question for Carrie to figure out how to get it from here and then put it on a
Yeah,
link.
he'll do what you tell him to do.
Yeah.
He will do what he's told.
He could probably put it on YouTube, but what I'm saying is when they go to the website, hold on a second. When they go to the website, he can put a YouTube link on the website. And then when they click the link, it'll direct them to YouTube so they can watch it in YouTube. But it will still be on the website.
But something that works, because it hasn't been working. I've been told that Carrie does not want to spend the time it takes to do it right. That's what I was told.
Carry the one posting them. I thought Orion posted.
Okay, well, Orion.
Yeah, we need to do one at a time. We can't hear.
Yeah.
Carrie should be the one in charge. Orion, I mean.
Hey, Heidi, can you move just a little bit closer when you're talking? I can't hear what you're saying.
I thought that Carrie was not posting the content to the website. That was Nick and Orion that were doing that.
Yes, and that's ultimately, I think, you know, Debbie's decision as to, you know, who gets that assignment.
Who's in charge of that? Who's in charge of that?
So if I understand what you're saying, is you should be able to go to the website. There should be a very obvious spot where you can click on board meetings or building and planning meetings.
No, we're past that because it can't be done. They keep saying, no, we can do it, change it. It's confusing.
Well, I'm asking the question. If it were on the website where you could click on it easily and it would give you the dates of the meetings and you click on those and it would go to them, that's what you're asking to have.
Right, but we've only got one sheet there. You've got to click here to go there, back and forth. If we had
Well,
an
we've never
information
posted the
center,
videos.
if we had an information center or something they could go to, where we could use the entire front page of it.
I believe that's something for the communication team to make work.
So on our webpage today, if you go to the agenda and minutes page, it's got all the meetings listed, all one right after the other. And right under the meeting, it says view event. and then off to the right, it says agenda and minutes. So you can click on the agenda and minutes and you get a PDF of the packet. Or you can click on view event. But like a meeting like this, where we don't have Orion taping the meeting, it doesn't work. Nothing happens when you click that link. It seems like, I don't know how to take these Zoom recordings that we're doing, but it seems like we could post those. So if somebody wanted to view that meeting, they click on that link and it opens the Zoom, the recorded Zoom meeting. I mean, is that possible, Heidi?
I'm not sure, but I'll check with Carrie to see if, I know that he sent me like audio recordings of the Zoom meeting so I can do the minutes for meetings that I missed. But I don't know if he can post a Zoom meeting. Seems like he should be able to.
I would think, I don't know what kind of file it is, but I would think it would play on the internet because it's playing on the internet right now.
Yeah,
Right.
it could just be an MP4 file, which is a video file.
That's real communication. We're talking about communication, how to get people, we've got them shut up right now. And even I can't go in there, well, not that I'm, I
Well,
can't go in there and find
we try to
most
keep you
of the stuff most of the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I said enough about that.
Yeah.
Well, I would think for the meetings that we have recorded on Zoom, I mean, we don't record all of them, but those that we have, we ought to post the link.
But we should do Zoom on every meeting regardless if anybody's on it or not, so that we can record.
Well, I think enough said. I think that's one of the strategies, one of the elements of the strategy that those of us that will be on the marketing and communications committee will certainly look into and find out about usability.
Anybody can be on there, we don't have to be named to be on the committee, right?
Well, no, the committee, Gene, is not a formal committee. It's a strategic planning team.
Yeah.
They're going to come up with their ideas and suggestions, and those are going to come to the retreat, and then we're all going to talk about them, together, so we can all have input into the process.
Yeah.
That's how it's supposed to work.
Okay, that's a good.
Just real quickly, I have seen some of the Zoom meetings being posted on the Facebook meeting. I don't know who does that.
There's nothing wrong with putting them on there.
Oh no, I'm not saying. I just don't know who does it.
No, we saw, we saw that portion that Jim Beazle put on, but he posted that on the news and information, and he lifted that from our recording here that we post as a podcast. It runs live and then it's accessible afterward. But it's an expense. It's a pain in the butt. Obviously, we have to come in. We have to mic everybody. We have to set up cameras. But there may I'll look into this. And I'll find out. I happen to work with a guy. I can ask him, and he'll give me an answer in 30 seconds. So,
right on, Charlie.
I'll be sure to let you know what I find out.
Okay. Just a suggestion. If you're going to do something like that, I feel you really need to have a board policy that says that you're doing that. Because the problem is if you pick and choose the meetings that you're posting, you're going to have problems. Which meetings require that? I mean, I don't ever have anyone ask me what happens at the meetings. Just
every one of them should be getting them behind. Now with this,
you just need to be really cautious about.
We shouldn't say anything that we don't want the public to do.
Yeah.
We don't.
We shouldn't be doing anything that we don't want them to do.
I agree.
I also know there's a handful of people that are misinformed and
you just need to have a consistent policy so you do the same thing all the time.
But with Zoom now, we can do it. Real easy, right, Heidi? Setting that up, and it's done. We're recording right now, if they were out there or not. Right?
There's other legal issues. I'd really like to have Scott weigh in on it as well.
Yeah.
Just these minutes can be carved up and stuff like that. When you put video content out there and stuff like that, that comes back to haunt you later on. So I mean,
you can just use 5 cuss words that were dubbed in.
They're dubbed in. That's right. So, like I said, I think let the team go through and do their work and come back, and obviously, I think we can discuss it later.
We'll look into it.
The compliance meeting that we had this morning, although names weren't discussed, we were talking about employee discipline and employee performance, and you know, that probably wouldn't be that appropriate to put out there on the website.
No, it would not be.
Okay, well,
Even when we're doing the Zoom meetings, we do still have closed sessions that we have to be careful of. So there's some details we would have to work out.
right. But it should work out communicators, but it's going to be part of it. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Tim, anything else on strategic planning that you want to follow up on?
That's it for now. Like I said, I did reach out to Bob with regards to, you had suggested this morning also about putting some stuff on the website, you know, related to some of the other work that we've done with, you know, the chiller system and the leach fields and those kinds of things, the electric system, you know, Tesla and all that other stuff that we're working on. So he's going to work on putting a report together that we can post to our website and so forth. Again, to educate the community about things that we're doing here.
Terrific. That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, then that brings us to the master plan project update and the budget reconciliation of master plan project. Chet, is Chet in the room?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right.
You can see his paperwork. He's on the edges.
Okay.
We'll take a look at one of the summaries here, and then if we need more detail, we'll go into it. I want to actually focus on the summary piece of number 7. As that particular summary for the hospital retrofit expansion master plan. And kind of talk about it just a little bit as we go down. These are the different sections. And let me start, for example, with the first grouping at the top, professional fees, and broken down. You can see 5 different line items there, even including a contingency for architectural and engineering of $146,000. So what you've got is we have actually, overall, we expect the professional fees to run us in this particular budget for the construction or the retrofit. We expect it to run us $2,591,000. Okay. Now we've actually spent. You can see how that breaks down there. Most of it, obviously, almost $2 million of it is architectural fees, and then it breaks down from there to in the other areas at this point in professional fees. You can see that as of June 30th, we have 538,717 in invoices on the books for the construction or for the retrofit project. The 403 that's been for architect. We have a small amount we paid with the civil engineer separately. There's some IT planning, 40,000 for a financial consultant. We have planning and marketing for 47,000. We have miscellaneous for 66,000. And the one actually we just added soils engineering. And we have some soils engineering invoices came through for 24,280. What was that for? Soils engineering? Yeah.
It's for the soils report. So in other words, when we submitted to Oshkosh our preliminary plan, we had to submit what's called the soils report, which determines what the soil is in the areas the construction is going to happen down to a depth of about 30 feet. So we had a company come out and they bored sample holes and took samples every 5 feet, and they developed a report, which I'll be discussing a little bit later. And that report had to go to Oshkosh by the December 31 deadline.
Was that the one that they were actually drilling outside while we were actually doing this committee meeting?
We were sitting at that meeting and they were drilling. They were right out.
For a new building, or what is that for?
Even to seismically retrofit the existing building, the structural engineers have to know what the soil under the building is.
Okay.
That's why they were boring so close to the building.
Now, we plan on doing this, we got a plan that looks good, but until we get money, what are we doing spending money? Well, we don't have money to spend.
And so this is money that's earmarked for this project.
But we don't have the money to do it. We might have to just keep sitting where we are until 37, and then close up. But
You can't do that. You can't do that.
why would you be spending money where we don't have the money to do the plan yet? Let's get the money committed, a commitment for it, or get the money before we waste all this money.
You got, again, Gene, I understand where you're coming from, but the point that it's not the way this works. I mean, we've got to keep this project moving. In other words, otherwise this thing is going to cost us to the point where we will be at a point where we have to shut down because we won't be able to afford to do that. You know, we locked in the 2016 building codes for a reason. So we've got to actually get started on the drawings to get this thing to happen. And we have the money to do that. Chet's already got that set aside. You know, and like I said, then as more and more money comes in, we will then do this, the construction part then happens in phases, you know, as we start, but you have to have the plans done first.
We've got a plan. Our next step is get the money.
Well, but you know, and there's a timeline to get submit all this stuff.
Look at it this way,
We've
Gene.
got a rough idea.
Okay, hold on, guys. One at a time. Gene, finish talking, then we'll go to Charlie, then we'll go to Bob.
All right.
We've got to, we got an idea of what's going to cost. Well, we've got to get the money. We keep wasting money. That all of the plans and everything that we have done through Greendraw, none of them are going to be used that we have spent money on. And so let's get the money and then do it.
That's actually, Gene, actually, that's not totally true. I mean, because a lot of the stuff that we've done before has been carried over into these plans, you know, so it's not wasted money. Some of it was, yeah, where we were looking at building the building out front, but that's when we designed that initial building that we were taking out to the community, we did what we believed was the best plan that we could come up with for this hospital. And a number of us still believe that that was the best plan. We've had to cut back on that because the community wouldn't support it financially.
Let's go back to that one, Tim, and get the money, then do it.
You can't.
We got to get the money.
Okay, let me put it this way to you.
Wait, it's Charlie's turn.
No, that's okay. I'm fine. I'd rather hear Bob speak.
Okay.
If you go out and buy a car, you pay cash for the whole car.
No, to finance it, but the.
Right there's what you said. Okay.
Let's
Now,
finance it. Let's get the commitment.
let me finish. Okay. You go out and you plump $2,000 or $3,000 down and you buy a car,
Right.
knowing that I have money coming in every month, and I can make the payment on that car. Where we're at is we've set aside enough money to make the down payment of drawing the plans, make the down payment of starting the first 20% of construction.
No, you give that.
Wait, hold on.
The bank
We
gives you
have that money. Chet has it in the bank. Okay. Chet also knows that each year he's going to get this amount of money.
money. No, he doesn't.
Well, he's pretty
He
certain.
does not. For the past,
Well, but
for
you
the past
can,
2 years that Tim has been here, he's paid $4 million of our entire debt.
but,
If that continues to be, we can't pay it.
okay, but you could buy a car and you could get laid off your job next week and you can't make the payment.
Well, I'm saying until we get a commitment, we get the money, we can't go forward. How
Well,
can
we don't have a choice. We can't sit here
Yeah,
until
we
we
do have
have
a
20
choice.
million in the bank.
We're operating right now. We are operating, it's doing fine. We could do the same thing we're doing until
And
2037.
close.
But if we sat there and we put a piggy bank out there and we just kept contributing to that, and we say, okay, now we've got enough money and it's 2029. We haven't got time to get the job done. You
The
know,
problem is you're chasing your tail.
Yeah, in addition to that, because we didn't get on it when we said we were going to, it's going to cost us $4 to $5 million more money because we're going to be under a different code.
Let's get
And
it.
every
That's
other
why
year,
it's-
each
that's
year
why-
that we wait longer is going to cost us more because the construction costs go up every year.
Tim, get the financing done.
Where are we going to get it?
we've been trying to get
Well, why
financing
are we
done for
building
years.
when we can't get money?
We can get
We
money.
get money through proceeds, through operations.
Not the way we've been operating. We've been operating a loss. Last year. The nursing, skilled nursing, 52 out
But
of
other
75
areas have
beds.
been making money.
52 out of 75 beds. That, yeah, the skilled nursing.
We're still making money on it.
They did the month before.
So Bob, I have a question for you. What is the what's the timing on construction and actually getting the construction plans drawn by the architect? What are we looking at in terms of getting that accomplished?
Okay, where we are at is, as you know, we did a push to get those in by that December due date so that we would stay under the 2016 code and save somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 to $4 million on this project. Okay, so we submitted the preliminary review. That was completed by OSHPD. Well, there's two reviews. There's reviews of the soils report and reviews of the plans. The soils report, they commented on it on March 10th of this year. So in there, they had a couple of minor comments. They want the soils engineer to use a different design factor. Instead, they used ASCE 41-13, but it was designed under ASCE 41, anyway, 710. So they wanted to change some criteria on what soils engineers do. That was the comment that came out from the soils report. So that's relatively minor, and then our soils report will be accepted. Now, our plans were reviewed, and these are the comments back. We received these about the end of March. Okay, we had 57 comments. Most of them are very minor. You know, things like identify location of ambulance delivery of patients to the temporary ED. Okay, well, that's just a note on the plans. A lot of minor stuff. They do want, that pretty much boils down to, they want an additional staff restroom near the emergency department. Other than that, all of this stuff is minor things like change this label, define this, give us the staffing levels during major shifts so that we know that there's enough of this or that. So, I mean, the comments on the plans were relatively minor, and those came back to us back in May. So there is not a defined time frame. In other words, normally if you do the submittal of construction drawings and they kick it back, you have like 90 days to make corrections. Okay, from a preliminary submittal to when you submit drawings, OSHPD has not defined that time period. But I talked with the architect yesterday, and he's already received a call or two from OSHPD that says, where are you at on the construction drawings? Well, he said, we're working on it. Because he can't say, I can have them done by such and such a date, because we have not given him approval to move ahead. So where we are at currently is they finished the preliminary plan review. They expect to see construction drawings sometime in the next, let's just say 6 to 9 months. Well, it takes 6 to 9 months to draw the construction plans. So the challenge is if we want to proceed with a plan that I think we all agreed is about as minimum as we can do, and we don't want to go into a different code cycle and have a whole bunch more increased costs of bringing the laboratory inside and a whole bunch of things that we would have to do if we went to the 2019 or later codes, because they change every 3 years, we would need to proceed with giving the architect the go-ahead to draw the plans. Now, understand, it may at times seem like you're throwing away money. It would only be throwing away money if we never built it. But if we proceed with, okay, we draw the plans and it costs this amount of money. They're going to be a year in plan review. After 7 months, they'll be kicked back to the architect for corrections. They'll come back for a back tech review. They'll go back for more corrections. They'll go back to the OSHPD. And so that takes approximately a year to do those about 3 go-arounds of reviewing the plans. So let's just say it takes 9 months to draw the plans, and it takes a year in plan review. That's about 2 years down the road, at which point Chet hopefully lands us another 2 or 3 million each year. And now we have 10 million or whatever in the bank of the 20. You know, we start construction. Now, if we get through phase 1 and we run out of money, or phase 2 or 3 or 4 and we run out of money, and we have not been able to find any more funding, we
we just tell everybody we're done and we cancel.
Well, that, we still have the option of doing a revenue bond if we need
Yes,
to.
well, I'm just
What
saying,
you really do, Bob.
There's other options.
all right, we go to a plan B and we get a loan to finish the project, or as Tim said. I'm only saying is that you're right, we do not have enough money in the bank, even over the next 5 years, to pay 100% of the project. But if we decide to sit and wait and raise money, this $20 million project down 10 years down the road is going to be a $40 million project.
What if it ends up being 40, just like the Hatch The Hatch did exactly that. They don't have a
There'd be a lot of mistakes.
Well, we're doing what we can't do what they're doing.
I make a
We're trying not to, Gene.
And
No,
Bishop,
we're not
who is
making those
Bishop now? Bishop's got a beautiful hospital. We might have a good hospital, but if we can't afford it,
You've got the guy sitting across from you that was able to identify and has in-depth knowledge of what exactly went wrong at the HB. And so we are not doing
we're not down the
repeat.
same path right now.
My understanding, we haven't approved any of this with the money.
Right. If
But-
the money
but
comes through
what
or
I-
something,
But my understanding of just about every committee meeting that we've been in, is what seems to be the logical approach to me, is that every year we do this in phases.
Yeah.
Chet will still keep getting the IGT money. God forbid if that runs out. I think the revenue bond approach is probably the more logical approach. It's not going to be anything like what happened with the SNF 30 years ago. It's going to be a more condensed revenue bond. It'll be affordable, and it's oversight by OSPOD, which is imposing these kinds of regulations with SB 1953 anyway.
and we voted in phases where one phase doesn't affect the other, where we should do a little bit of planning on, if we have to stop, it'll stop.
Well, that is what I just said a little bit ago. If we get through 3 phases and and 4 phases and we run out of money, we can stop for a period of
Will
time.
it still continue to function?
Yes. That is
One
one
will
that,
not depend on the other.
remember those 9 phases we showed you on the drawings with the architect? That had to be broken out that way because every phase has to be completed without affecting the operations of the hospital and be fully functional when that piece opens. Okay, and then the next one has to happen and it has to be fully functional. And I mean, some of the comments were in here show the travel distance to the nearest handicapped accessible restroom during each phase of the construction. I mean, that's how detailed this stuff is. Now, to answer Ross's question, where we are at is if we do not approve the architect to move forward with drawings, probably in the next 4 weeks, we can throw everything in the toilet, including the 2016 code that we're under. Because if we cannot tell OSPOD when we're going to submit construction drawings, they're going to cancel the permit process.
We can't sit on this. That's the problem. We've got to move forward. We've got to keep moving forward.
We don't have to move forward. We need, what have you been doing to find money, Tim? Or to get an exception to what we're up against? What efforts have you been doing? You've been spending all your time looking at all these problems that wouldn't be a problem if we weren't looking at them.
No, I'm just
And that confusing.
a little bit.
So, okay, you're spending time on remodeling, renovation, building. Well, we don't have the money to do it. Find the money first.
Whatever, I think, the ultimate, the big picture, take the blinders off and look at why we're doing this. It is not just because it's mandated by the state. It is because we want a better facility for the Kern River Valley that's going to offer better and more services than we currently offer. With that comes customers, patients, if you will. But that, the more credibility we have as a facility that can take care of more things than we're capable of doing at this point in time, we
need to manage that.
the money comes in.
52 people out of 75 in skilled nursing this month is not good.
We've been working on that for a long time.
Yeah,
That's
and
tough.
you've been working on
We've got a COVID thing going on too. We can't just accept anybody we'd like to put in there. we've got to protect the people who are currently in there.
They've done an incredible job that we've had no cases in this. You know, that's been a huge successful
That's
task.
not a problem. Management should be able to manage it. Some things not right.
We have been managing it, Gene.
Who has?
Gene, I think that if we would look at the same idea that we did not think that there was going to be any options regarding seismic upgrade when they moved it, and now they've moved it. We were on the pattern for solving this within that first time frame. And now they are looking at 2030 for the
37.
seismic upgrade. So when you look at that, and with the conditions of the world as they are right now, of what's going on, you can't guarantee that the things are going to be the same, that the money's not going to be in the bank, in waiting for the pattern and that. So why don't we set some kind of a forward date within, say, what you were talking about the date for Oshkosh, and look at that and say, okay, if this doesn't happen over here with that time frame, then we go over here. We did that before. It didn't work out one time. That was the only time. Didn't work out. Most of the time, it works out. If we set a pattern and we have all the options, and this man is famous for this. I mean, he does it. It works. That's why I feel.
Here, I just want to throw something out too, and I want to personally commend Chet. I just heard the other day that Southern Inyo has finally come out of bankruptcy, and a lot of that had to do with the work that Chet's put in up there to help find them money and get them squared away. And obviously, like I said, he's got a lot of talent and brings that to the table here at this hospital and has for 16 years.
And I got a lot of respect for Chet. But was Chet the finance guy when they went into bankruptcy?
No.
Okay, good. You did a good job.
No, Chet didn't put them there. He got them
that's
out.
what I was just.
Yes.
Okay, so what if we want to have Gamble pay for those plans?
Yes.
What would it cost?
Okay. I can tell you exactly. This is the contract for us to proceed. Okay. It is broken down into some segments, but it has to be approved as a whole. Schematic design, which is the next step, which is just, okay, we've done the preliminary design. Now we have to do schematic design, design development, and then construction documents. What it is each of those, okay, there was a comment in here that you don't show sinks in the patient bathrooms. Well, that's because we all know that there's a sink in the patient bathroom, but they had to comment on it because we didn't put the little, but it's going to be there. Okay, so the schematic design and design development locates every sink, every faucet, every chair, everything in the building. Okay, so it is $79,880 for schematic design. It is $322,280 for design development. And the construction documents are $607,260. And then there is some money set aside for those back check things. They go back and forth where they got to make changes to the drawings of $65,940. Okay, that totals $1,075,360. Now that's the gamble. We commit to the $1 million. That gets us through the next 18 months, of which at some about around 18 months we would have a permit to start construction. Now, once that happens, you can request a delay in start. You can't go real long, but you can request. People have requested like a year and gotten it, but normally when you get your building permit, you have to start in a reasonable time frame with construction. But that would be, and I'm going to get you, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm working on the construction costs in the 9 phases. So that before we would ever ever approve the construction to start, you will know that phase 1 is going to take this amount of months and it's going to cost this. Phase 2 will take this amount of months and it's going to cost this. I'm working on that breakdown right now. Right now, we need to approve this $1 million.
Let me help you with a little bit more with that. Okay? What we actually have in our budget and have had for some time since we developed,
Right?
is approximately $2 million in architecture.
Yes.
Okay? We have spent $403,000. Have $1,590,000 to spend. Now, you had about $1,200,000
Million.
altogether.
This is the $1,073,000.
$1,073,000. Okay.
So we're
we
still
got
under budget.
So we're going to say $1,000,001.
Yes.
Got $1,000,001 of this $1,005,000 that we want to say, okay, it's good. Now it's in your budget, as long as this stay with this plan.
Yes.
Okay? But you should not go over. I won't look at it. You should not go over for everything,
Right.
all architecture fees, $1,590,000 that we don't have now.
And I don't believe we will, because let me explain. There are 2 phases here where there is listed as an hourly rate. This is above and beyond the $1,075,000. That is the procurement phase and construction administration. Now, for instance, on the chiller project this morning, I had the structural engineer, mechanical engineer, and the electrical engineer here on site, because they have to verify that all the work was built to their design, because they have to sign a document with OSHPA that says, yes, it was built to our design, and it is satisfactory. So I spent all morning with them, walking through every little thing that we have done on that chiller project, for them to sign that off. So this construction administration phase is that. Now, that being said, we've got approximately what, $400,000 between $300,000 and $400,000 in the budget for that phase, which I don't see us spending that much, because the architect doesn't have to be here every day. He's going to come here once a month.
But it's still gonna be approximately $1,200,000 or whatever.
Yes, when we're all said and done, it's going to be like $1.2 million. But so what we need to approve is the $1,075,000.
Now, Chuck, you know that PPP, we could not forgive the loan, we could not have that. Money. There's more coming, probably another $2 million that they'll give us. And I expect it to be forgiven. So that, we're gonna have more money, but we can't throw it away in the middle. We need to move toward it. And we'll have 18 months from what he's saying to find finance. Can we do that in 18 months? Can we manage to where we're making, where we look better than 52 out of 75?
I think I agree with all the points with the exception of one. I think to do any construction, no matter what you do, is you want to let me just kick it to the happy, because they did exactly what you thought. Before they started to build, they had plans for over 5 years. They would take modified, okay, and did different plans, because the original was a modular building for only $15 million. What they did was then they did all of the due diligence they could, decide what amount, because they got the $15 million from the general obligation fund, what amount it would take to do a full service hospital that they wanted. They could bring the funds, just like we have here. That's where they went wrong, because they said 65 million should do that. No problem. Okay. And the problem is, so they had the money, all the money's here, all the financing's here. But they messed it around. They changed some things. They had some contractors that didn't perform, and lawsuits going back and forth. And so going out all the way around, when we finally got through, actually, when they got to the point that I couldn't squeak any more money out. And when I went over there, they were already at their 65. And they didn't have footings about all they had. So the situation is, I started trying to squeeze money out of it, because the community's not going to pay anymore. The community's ticked off. They're paying money, and they're not seeing any hospital.
You're paying $200 a month or something. You're paying a year. They're paying a lot of money.
They're paying well over $200,000. Okay. Anyway, the situation is that what they ended up doing was saying, okay, if you got all the money squeezed out, what we got to do is about 4 months before they predicted think this was in the summer of 14, summer of 2014. They said, we predict that the money's only going to last until February. No matter what you do, even with your reduction, because I laid out 20 people, we laid out 30. Right? We laid out 20, okay? And did a bunch of other things, but because they were not operating efficiently. Anyway, we got to that point. I said, okay, I understand what you're saying. Just work with me. In the meantime, let's go see if we can find a partner. Because they already had the obligation fund. We're going to get any more money out of it. Banks are going to give me money. Check the banks. Nothing. So we went to this to find a partner. So they sent out an RFP to specified people or organizations that might want to come in and be a partner. They said, "What a rich rest?" No answer. Most didn't have that kind of money. Someone to dignity. So they got basically the large Catholic hospital groups in Bakersfield. And they sent one to Adventist. So the larger groups around them, they sent a RFP to. Both Dignity and Adventist answered in the positive. Okay? And then basically there was a detailed review by both inside and outside. They had from outside to review the proposals. And the choice was made to go with Adventist because they were willing to do more in that particular time than Dignity was, and they were acting more ready to do it. So the way what they actually did is Adventist had an outside certified appraiser review it, and the hospital again got another certified appraiser to review it to come in with amounts that it would take to finish. And all parties, both outside specialists as well as inside, and the board, agreed it's going to take $27 million to finish, over and above the 65 and that we could already use. Okay, so basically, what had to happen to do that is Adventist, every invoice for it, we're going to continue on with construction. Okay, and every construction invoice had to be signed up on by all the parties, being the architect, Oshpod, the manager for the project, the CEO, the CFO, the board, okay, and Adventist. And once they did that, to the very upper echelons of Adventist Health, then they would pay us the money to pay for those invoices when that work was, because it had to be certified work was done each time. Each time. Okay? So I signed every single item in construction for 2 years, 2.5 years. Okay? Including lawsuits and attorney's fees and everything that was involved. We finally got through. We were at about, I think they had given us, when they had given us the 27 million. What they did was, through those invoices, they gave us the 27 million. When we got to the 27 million, we said, okay, this is it. Now interestingly, they continued to give us a little bit more, closer to 30, okay, simply because they wanted to see all these little items done, and it was costing a little bit more than the 27 million that everybody had agreed to. Okay, when we finally got through, they didn't know what they did. They took possession of the existing business. The hospital stayed with the district. The district still owns the hospital, okay, and still owns the previous hospital. But they started to operate it. They started to operate the old one first, because what they didn't want to do was put some of their own changes on top of whatever the plans were. And they spent probably a year and a half putting their own other changes in there. When they finally opened it for operation, it was January of 2018. Okay, 2018. They took possession of the business as far as running it in November of 2016, but didn't open the hospital directly to the public, the new hospital, until January 2018. And then from there on, it was, really, that was the end. And basically, we just started. They were actually renting the space even from actually January 2017, correct? want to take it back.
Hey, Chet, we need to move on.
Okay.
Can you wrap up?
Anyway, there's ways to do this. I can go back. Let me say it this way. The only thing we have to do, there's no way in the world you're ever going to have money ahead of time unless you do something like that. Unless you want to take it apart. That's your only option at this point in time. As far as I know.
Right now, an option is we're operating. We're providing emergency service. We're providing service. We're doing okay. The only reason we started this stuff was seismic requirements. That could go away. We're in the least effective area of earthquake in California. We're in a good spot.
It doesn't matter to them. It's not going to go away.
Here's the problem, and Bob's right. It's not going to go.
We're not.
You can't continue to infrastructure.
No.
You cannot.
Our 50-year-old building is worn out.
You've now spent basically about $1.6 million on infrastructure.
Yes.
Most of that's the electric or the energy conservation program, okay? Which we actually had financing for $1.9 million. We have spent $1 million on the construction portion, $1,622,133 as of the end of June. Okay. Now, there's still $9 million to go in construction. It's like there was $2 million to go for the architect. The $9 million in construction is going to be basically mostly subcontractors. The general contractors are mostly subcontractors.
But when we get to that point, we won't be $27 million behind. You will get contracts.
You may need more than that if you wait. You may need even more than that.
Completion bonds to where they'll do what there's.
Yeah, and we're not going to have them proceed with a section or a phase of the project without having the money.
No, because I would say you don't have it. Don't do that.
So the first step, though, let me summarize if I can, and tell me, Bob, Chuck, Chet, Tim, if I get this wrong, is we can't move forward without construction plans. I mean, that's the logical next step if we're going to build this facility.
Yes.
So we have to have those in hand. If we don't have them in hand within the next few weeks, then we lose the building code issue that we have in our favor now, and it'll cost us another $2 to $4 million.
Yep.
So it's not a waste to we're not losing anything by moving forward with these construction plans. We may not have the money yet to complete the construction, but the first step is to have those construction plans in hand so that we can move forward phase by phase. And that's how I see it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So how do we then move forward as a board to authorize the architect to move forward? It's not on our agenda here. Can you bring it to the board next week?
We could, yes.
If we're gonna bring it to the board next week, I need it by the end of this week.
Yeah, because it's got to be posted 3 days in advance of the meeting.
Hey, this committee has to agree. Agree to send it to the board.
Yeah.
This committee has to agree to send that.
I would make a motion.
If you're gonna wait or approve it here.
Yeah.
There's that option.
I don't think we can approve it here today.
You can't, no.
We can't under Brown Act.
Approve putting it on the agenda for the board.
Yeah. So we cannot as a board take action today because of Brown Act limitations. It wasn't on the agenda, but we can consider it next week when we meet as the board.
Tim, can you commit to finding, within 18 months after we approve this now, to finding or having a plan for being profitable and being able to do something moving forward? Because right now, we're not. Every month we're looking at it. We're looking at it since I've been here. Looking at it doesn't.
Not everybody, Gene, but many of them, yes.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, Gene, we've been profitable. If you go back and take a look at our audit financial statements, you'll see that we've been profitable for some time now. Okay, you're looking at the operational stuff every month, but obviously, as we know, there's other income streams that come into this that aren't factored on a month-to-month basis. You know, obviously, we want to get our, we've got the pandemic thing going in front of us right now. And, we have gotten monies. Like I said, the PPP program, obviously it's going to pick up $2.5 million of our staffing expenses. But we can't take that to the bottom line until obviously we get past the point where that's forgiven. And we know we have every reason to believe that we're going to meet that. So, like I said, yes, I mean, that certainly goes a long way to turning around some of that experience that we've seen this year from an operating perspective. So, again, obviously we continue to try. Again, a part of why we're doing this strategic plan is to go out and find new sources of revenue and new ways to make this hospital
Let's
profitable.
understand, though, all that the PPP did was pay for, when we kept employees, extra time.
Yep.
So that's an offset. It doesn't change anything for the operation as a mechanism, or the structure, nothing.
Right. Just covers the cost of it, of a portion of that.
Everybody needs to go, and I know I have done. We probably should do it.
You owe me an hour.
We probably should do it. However, it's not approving to go forward. It's just a gamble, losing the advantages with the permits and versus.
Yeah, but I mean, if what you're asking of Tim and of Chet and of the entire administration, if there were a way to project and ensure a profitability to the level that all this would be taken care of, none of us would be sitting here right now. We'd be independently wealthy, sitting on a beach in the Bahamas.
Let's look at it a different way. Let's say that we look at it as the money to do any improvements is coming from an outside source. Whether you borrow it, somebody gives it to you with a grant, that's coming from an outside source. What you want to do is be able to say, I can make through operations this business run on a break-even basis. In critical access, most of the money is going to be cost-based. So even if you reduce your cost, the major thing is you've got to come to a break-even from operations. From operations. Not figuring, and if you, let's say you have something like COVID, that's fine. But what happens there is they're giving you money to make up for that. That's all. On a same store basis, the hospital needs to break even from operations. Yeah. It's that simple. That's what I agree with you.
Don't misunderstand me.
Let's build another 20.
I'm just saying that there's no way to ask or receive any kind of guarantee that
you make it happen. You have to make it happen.
We have to make it happen.
You have to make it happen.
And that's our job as a board.
You've got to say, here are our fixed costs, here are our variable costs. I will reduce the variable costs. When things go down, volume goes down, I will reduce the variable costs. Is that going to hurt? You damn right it is. But you do it anyway. Yeah. Because that's what you have.
I think we need to go ahead and prove it. But we've got to work after we got.
Absolutely.
We have to run profitable and.
Well, at least break even. I'm saying break even.
John, did you have a comment?
I'm just going to say,
we're not paid the same way.
Hold on, Chet. Hold on.
I'm just going to say, I was going to make a recommendation to put the plans on the agenda for next week's board. If you need a
Thank you.
I certainly second that.
Yeah, we don't need a motion. We can't vote on it because it's not on the agenda. But as long as we're comfortable with it being on the board agenda next week for us to deliberate next week and make a decision, then conceivably we're moving forward. I don't think it's a gamble. In my mind, it's not a gamble. We need the construction plans to move forward with the first phase anyway. So we plunk down that money, we get our plans, and then we can decide how much of it we can accomplish with moving forward. That's how I see the world.
By the way, just to reiterate, the money is there. It's setting and waiting for those controls.
The plans. Yeah.
Yes.
Or design, what do you want?
Yeah, the construction drawings.
Okay, this has been a great discussion, but we're kind of a little bit off track perhaps. Is there anything left on the master plan project update that still needs to be discussed in terms of budget reconciliation or train or the phased improvement plan?
Just, Russ, just want to put that out there. We have a 2:30 meeting in this room at infection control, so we got to kind of keep that as our discussion limiter.
Thank you. Okay.
I'd like to comment, Ross. I think we're pretty much through everything on the master plan. I would like a few minutes discussion on the waste treatment.
Okay, that's next on the agenda. So we'll move to that.
Okay, so I had mentioned at the last meeting that I had, well, we all know the leach field and where we're at on that. Now, just as an update, the guy that was initially reviewing our drawings at the State Water Board, one of his bosses came in and says, I'm going to oversee this. And so he's looking at our drawings right now, hopes to have a judgment here before long. But that's related to the drawings for the leach field. So that's in process still at the State Water Board. The other issue that we have is that our what's called a rotary screen, which basically pulls things out of the waste stream going into the treatment plant that shouldn't go into the treatment plant, such as rubber gloves and patient wipes and things like that. The rotor screen doesn't do a very good job of removing those. And so I had been talking with a firm that does make a rotor screen, and for about $45,000 they can make us a new one. But then I contacted the engineer who designed our waste treatment plant. And interestingly enough, the guy who stamped the plans and signed off on the drawings for the treatment plant is still working all these years later. And I believe I attached in here his response to me on asking about this new screw system. And the difference basically is, in a nutshell, is the rotoscreen pulls those gloves and then wipes out and dumps them into the black tank. They float on top, they create a mess. It's very difficult to get that pumped annually when we pump. This screw setup grabs those gloves and wipes, brings them up a screw, washes them as they come up, and dumps them into a trash can, which we can then go put in the dumpster. So it's the new thing that everybody's gone to in waste treatment facilities. I'm talking big ones, small ones, whatever. The difference in cost, the rotoscreen was about $45,000, and the Obix screw system is, I have a quote here, is about 60. So it's about 15 grand more. I'll say screw it.
Can we make a motion to accept the way you presented that?
Absolutely. I'm good with that. There will be some minor construction costs. We're going to try and do most of the work ourselves. I have contacted a firm that works on installation of this stuff to help me get it into the building and bolt it in. But we will move the wall. We will make plumbing adjustments, electric adjustments.
This is good. Again, this was not on the agenda as an action item, so it will need to come to the board anyway. Okay. So you can certainly explain it today.
So Heidi's got everything, so it'll be on the board agenda.
Heidi, can I ask you? I didn't bring my recorder today. Last 2 meetings I did. Can I get a copy of this?
This one?
Yes.
I will have Carrie send it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I just wanted that discussion because so everybody understands when it comes up on the board the reasons why to spend the extra 15 grand. I think it's well worth it. Yeah.
And one,
I've got a couple of questions.
Okay.
First to Chet, how are we paying for this? Where's the money coming from? And
What he's talking about?
For this waste treatment plant, just the screw system.
Okay, depending on what he buys and how he buys it, is if it doesn't meet the criteria for capital expenditure, what that means is a useful life of greater than 1 year, and a dollar value of higher than $5,000. Now we're in excess of $5,000.
Yes, it'd be 60,000.
But the question is how much, Rob?
60,000.
50, and that's still okay.
60.
Okay, 60.
60,000.
So 60 is still within the range of having, as long as it is a repair, it's going to be expensed. Now, how do we deal with that expense right now? What we have at the end of June, before the final audit, okay, is we're showing about 445,000 loss. So let's just take that into perspective. This is going to be an operating expense. So effectively, to pay for, if we had to pay for it today,
Right.
it would come from money that we have been advanced from outside source, not from operations, because from operations, we don't have any money. So where's it gonna come from? It's gonna come from borrowing from money that we've gotten from non-operating income. That's the answer.
Okay.
That's simple.
Can we use this as a credit against our deferred maintenance? I mean, it's a deferred.
You're in a new year now. You're in a new year.
Okay.
Our fiscal started at the beginning of the month.
Yeah. So I don't have a whole lot built up yet.
No,
And-
you're gonna go way over your budget for the month of July.
Yeah.
Can you say it that way?
But for next year's expenditures, then does this cost get shown as a deferred maintenance to help us fulfill our expenditures on deferred maintenance?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
Hey,
it's something
if it's something we have to do.
Yes.
we have to do anyway.
The
All right.
biggest decision is, even though when we have to do it, what are you gonna do about the add-on that Bob's recommending of 15,000, rather than do it the other way? Because in either case, you're borrowing the money from your reserves. From your non-operating.
Okay. All right. And Bob, a question for you on that email that was included in the agenda packet from Julian Williamson talking about the non-approval from the state and then trying to get the county involved to approve it. Can you talk a minute about that?
What it turns out is that I don't think is going to be the case. This was an email related, coming back from, we were working with Mr. Venus. Well, I have another email that wasn't in time to be in this package from one of Mr. Venus's bosses that says he's taking over the review process. He's going to see if he can get the design all approved from the State Water Board. So,
Okay. All right.
so we aren't going to go to the county because the county does not permit systems over 10,000 gallons a day.
Yeah. It would be a boondoggle. I'm glad that that's the case. Good. Good. Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions?
Okay, hey, guys, I'm sorry I'm bullheaded. Thank you for your patience.
Gene, you keep us from having groupthink. You're doing good. You're doing your job. Okay. Anything to discuss today about the Mesa Clinical Pharmacy improvement?
No, we don't have anything for that.
I would suggest we remove this for the time being until we're ready to reconsider this as a viable project.
Aren't we going to be looking at that in the whole,
Yeah,
The,
you can't say that yet.
for the strategic planning?
Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay.
Okay, gang. Then, are there any other items that the board wants to discuss before we adjourn?
I would, Bob, you stand up for just a moment. Trish and Tony called each other this morning and dressed us.
How come I didn't get that call?
I don't.
Oh, we don't know your wife's phone number.
Okay, gang. Then we'll see some of you tomorrow at the finance meeting and the rest of you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I just need to talk to you guys and check.
You're not gonna holler this, are you?
More physical.
Hey, Chet,
Greg's more.
hey, Chet,
Chet?
yes, can you come in and see me here when you get done there? I've got a question, something I need to go over with you
Okay,
for current health systems.
okay.
Thanks.
Can I show up at the check?
Thank you, everybody.
Can I show